Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
And thanks for having me back on, Jim.
Ross, it's Tuesday and already real estate trade associations are announcing 400% sales increases, more than that in Vancouver, 20% or more year-over-year house price changes in April. Josh, a real estate broker in Calgary, asked us, I'm working with a couple in their 30s looking to trade up from their townhome to a single detached. They want to buy new, but I'm recommending resale. They fear house prices are now rising and want to lock in. What would you advise my clients?
Well, Josh, as a real estate broker, I can tell by the way that you worded this question where your guidance was heading. The moment you talk resale over new, it's clearly your bias is towards generating a commission. So what I'll tell you is this, Josh. You should tell your clients, your buyer clients, what your commission rate is. Don't use the AREA forms. Don't use the Calgary Real Estate Board forms. Well, you got to use them because that's a legal requirement. But don't hide what you're doing, Josh, behind the contracts. Look, we are fully aware that in Alberta, the word commission, any mention of remuneration of fees going towards a real estate broker have been totally removed from the contracts. We are fully aware of that. There is no place on an agreement of purchase and sale in the province of Alberta that any home buyer or seller is even mentioned the word paying a real estate broker. It's so carefully hidden, it's just mind-boggling that was allowed to take place. So I know what you're saying when you're saying you're trying to convince resale. So what you need to do, Josh, is you need to say, I'm going to charge you 2%, 3%, whatever you're going to charge them to sell them a house. And you shouldn't care what they buy. If they're looking for a house at, $500,000, which would be moving into a single detached in the Calgary area from a townhouse, I'm assuming, you want to charge them 3%? Okay, that's $6,000. Admit that you're going to charge them $6,000, and you're going to charge them that no matter what you sell them. Now, you're not going to charge them, if they spend $550, you're not going to grab an extra $600 off the deal, okay? You're going to just accept your $5,000 plus your GST, because it's Calgary, there's no provincial sales tax. A GST on the commission, that is. So that's the very first place, Josh, is where you should start, being honest. I understand that that's not how the real estate industry works, and I understand that over the last 40 years, everything possible has been done to hide commissions from buyers. Like, I understand that. But if you want to be different and you want to exist over the next 10 years, Josh, just tell them the truth. Now, fear of house prices now rising, they want to lock in. That illusion is created by your local real estate board, Josh, in Calgary, the Calgary Real Estate Board. Ms. Lurie is your chief economist there. Now, you may not know, Josh, but Ms. Lurie is clueless. The woman has no idea how housing markets work. She knows no idea how the MLS system is designed, and she has no idea what she's talking about with the Calgary or the Alberta real estate market, because I know now she also represents the Alberta Real Estate Board. What you need to do, Josh, is you need to tell your clients the truth. Look, house prices really haven't gone up 20% year over year. If you look at the annual basis at the end of the year this year, you may see the house prices year over year were up 10% in Calgary. That's what they're going to tell you. But of course, all of that 10% gain was simply a creation of incremental house price illusion each month. You as a realtor, Josh, you know that if you list a home, you're going to look at the comparable sales in the street, and you're going to add more money to the price of the house you're going to list. You are not going to list the house for the same price, the exact same house sold for in the street. You're going to list it higher. Usually, Josh, if you haven't been trained this way yet in Calgary, I think they said you were a real estate broker, so you should know this. Real estate agents add their commission onto the previous average price, and they sell it, which is why over the last 40 years, well, up until COVID anyways, nationally, the average compound annual growth rate in house prices is what the real estate commission is. That's just how it works. Which is why we also need house price correction. It's why housing bubbles are formed, Josh. Tell your clients all this, because that way they can make an honest decision. Now, if they want to buy a trade-up home after 1 year of the greatest house price illusion in history, something that was only created by the lockdown of the economy in March and April of last year, and the reopening it, and the amount of false information that appeared coast to coast from every single person commenting on the housing market, you go ahead and let them buy. But explain to them that's what's going on. I don't think that's what they should be doing right now, Josh. They need to be looking at their situation right now as it exists in the townhouse. Then they need to look at their situation if they were to sell. Financial, house price projection, how long they're going to be in their next home. Is the home they're going to be able to afford a home they're going to be able to stay in the years going forward, and how many years can they stay in that home? The beautiful thing about Calgary, though, Josh, is this. Because the period from 2013 through till the pandemic, COVID hit last year, house prices have declined. Real house prices have dropped. If you sell them a new house, Josh, from a reputable builder in Calgary, odds are they're not going to lose any money in that house because Calgary builders are already building on a small enough margin. It's one of the few places in Canada where major home builders are selling houses at a reasonable profit margin that they are going to continue to be able to sell them at, even in a house price correction. Other housing markets across that Canada are not so lucky. They're getting exorbitant profit margins on these properties, margins that they have never dreamed possible when they first entered becoming a builder. They're profiteering off the low amount of land being made available by municipalities, and they're capitalizing on the public's ignorance to how the MLS system works and what their local real estate brokerages are telling them. So that's how I'm going to end it, Josh. You're a real estate broker. You can decide to tell your clients the truth. You can decide to ask them to pay a certain dollar amount of money to you for the advice you're going to give them, regardless of the home that they buy, regardless of whether or not the home is offering a sales commission, because they're going to have to pay you anyways under this format. And you can tell them the truth. And you can let them decide. And by the way, Josh, always make sure that they talk to their lawyer before they ever sign any paperwork that you offer them, and they talk to their accountant before they ever sign an agreement of purchase and sale.
Now, something that you've mentioned in previous shows, new versus used homes. When it's a new home, all the appliances are going to be under warranty. The roof is new. The driveway is new. You're not going to be paying a lot of money on maintenance in the first 5 to 10 years. When you buy an older house, when do you have to replace the roof? Do you have to replace the plumbing, the wiring, redo the driveway, shore up the garage roof? Those are all costs that real estate people are not obligated to tell you about.
So the irony in your statement, Jim, is this. When you're buying a house with an advisor overseeing the process, every single one of those issues is dealt with. The only reason they're not dealt with is because real estate agents are the ones governing the process. In other words, an advisor, someone from our staff, for the sake of the argument if they're talking, they are not going to let you buy a house without knowing you're going to have to replace the roof in 3 years, if the roof is going to need to be replaced in 3 years. They're not going to allow you to use a traditional home inspection. You can have the traditional home inspection, but you also have to have a buyer beneficial home inspection that's done, not one that was designed by the real estate industry to allow them to earn commissions. I mean, most home buyers don't understand, Jim, that building inspections were fought against in the real estate industry for 15 years. Real estate agents didn't want them. It had nothing to do with the sellers. It was the real estate agents. Only when the real estate agents had their backs put up against the wall did they begin to cave. And by that time, there were already a highly experienced, highly skillful group of sales agents that had been using home inspections for 20 years. So what you're commenting on here about a resale home versus a brand new home is how every single home being presented to a home buyer should be presented. But since that doesn't work to the advantage of the realtors or to the advantage of sellers, homes are never presented to home buyers that way. The beautiful thing about our platform is that's exactly how they're presented to them. Look, the furnace in this house is average for the neighborhood, but it also means you're going to have to replace it in 8 years. The furnace in this house was replaced 7 years ago, but it's a high-efficiency furnace that has a long reputation of lasting 30 years. Now, which would be unusual for a high-efficiency furnace, by the way, folks. The HVAC system that is in this house, the entire HVAC system is outdated. You are going to have to replace this HVAC system with a brand new system within 5 years just to bring it up to the standards of that new home. Now, that doesn't paint these new homes as being the holy grail, Jim, because when you buy that brand new home, you're not going to have the big tree in the backyard. You're not going to have as big a backyard as you would in a resale home. There's trade-offs with both. An informed, educated home buyer is buying a home with their eyes fully wide open, with a calculator in hand, with an understanding of what that home is going to cost them over the next 10, 20, and 30 years. No one out there, no real estate agent out there, A, has the skill to be able to do that, or B, is willing, has the skill, and would be willing to lose tens of thousands of commissions, earnings, by instructing you about the truth. Instead, they keep their mouths closed, their lips pursed, and they smile, and they said, well, the local real estate board said this. Oh, the real estate board of Greater Vancouver said home prices are up 10%. Oh, the real estate board of well, I don't know what's going to happen with prices, but the Calgary Real Estate Board, the board I'm a member of, said house prices are up 20%. They don't take it upon themselves to assume the responsibility and the accountability, because Canadian courts frown upon salespeople who lie to the public. So they don't lie. They always cite statistics released by the real estate board. So this is part of the bigger problem. But it goes right back to with the comment that you just made, Jim. Yes, there is a huge difference between a 15 to 20-year-old resale home, a 30 to 40-year resale home, a 5-year-old resale home, and a just poured foundation new home that will be moving into in 6 months. Simply tell the people the truth and let them make a decision for themselves.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Pat, a long-time listener, asks, Ross, as much as I appreciate that Ross debunks the real estate board's magic math, why doesn't he ever say what the actual average price increase has been in houses, or his methods of proving why he's right?
Okay.
Well, I think you do, Ross, but maybe they missed it.
Well, no, I don't think I actually ever mentioned on the show, Jim, what the actual average price of a home is. And there's a reason for that. I am paid, we're paid, we make a living giving people advice that they can rely upon. If we have the ability to time a housing market, and we are arrogant enough to make that statement, as well as guarantee it in writing, why would you give that information away when everybody else believes you can't time a housing market? When everybody was listening to CMHC last May about the house prices falling, and we're sitting there saying there's 104,000 trade-up buyers currently homeless that have been accumulated over the last few months. Their purchases have not been recorded in transactional data. We know when those trade-up buyers are going to buy houses, that they have to buy houses, because there's no homes out there for them to rent, and they're not renters, they're owners. That's going to raise the average selling price. Why would we tell anybody that we know that? We have people that are paying us for this service. Why would I go out and debunk with actual data and our methodology, and then allow some shill or huckster that's out there, some realtor that's out there, some real estate analyst or whatever, some economist, to capitalize on us explaining how we do things? Look, Pat, this is what I would say to you. I have come on House Street now for a couple of years. Okay, I think my history with House Street goes back somewhere around 2013, 14, I think is when I first started. And then later it became a regular appearance for me. It's the only place in Canada that we give interviews and we talk. Why? Because we're allowed to speak for a long period of time. We don't have to be sitting here and going on and explaining why we're right and why they're not wrong. We can just tell you why that's the case. You can also then go and fact check what we're saying. So this is what I tell you, Pat. If you went back to the very first House Street interview that we did, that they have archived here, and you listened to that one and every one over the last couple of years, you would know more about a housing market than any realtor in Canada. You would know more about a housing market than what I knew when I gave up my license to trade in real estate in 2013. Because the amount of aggregated knowledge that I possessed at that time, I had no idea that the world didn't possess this knowledge as common. If you listen to all of those episodes, you're listening for a tidbit of information. You're studying what we've relayed in all of those shows. There is enough information in those shows for you to go out there and debunk what you're going to read in the newspaper all this week. If you just take single talking points and then you'd look at the MLS releases in a month, searching someplace in Canada for that instance to reveal itself, you're going to see it. So that's why, Pat, if you want access to the level of market intelligence, the understanding, let's put it this way, the basic understanding of how housing markets function, how the home trading market functions, that takes years and decades to learn. There's nothing stopping you from going back in all of those old shows and listening and fact-checking this. Go right ahead and do it. You need to also understand that when we're speaking on House Street, we have people paying for our services that are getting it, they're actually being delivered market intelligence in advance of what we're communicating here on House Street. We read real estate markets so far in advance, months and months in advance. We know what the market is going to produce in terms of average house price, which is the only metric that matters in today's world in terms of housing. House price. It's an illusion, but it's the only metric that matters. So if we're able to, if we know how to read a market today and tell you what the average selling price is going to be 8 months from now, we know what the average house price increase is going to be reported as by StatsCan, CMHC, Korea, every realtor across country, every economist. We know what they're going to report. people pay us for that information, okay? They're making life-altering decisions on that information. We can tell people, as I've said on the show before, Pat, to move to the opposite side of the street and put an extra $50,000 in their pocket over the next 30 years. Imagine that. This is not, you don't have to invest in any stock. You don't have to, we can just simply tell you to move on one side of the street and put an extra $50,000 in your pocket. We can tell you to move to another city. And if the house price gain is identical to what it would have been in the comparing city, you're going to put an extra $250,000 in your pocket by doing nothing. That is the power of homeownership advice. That is the power, the financial power that we're talking about here, Pat. It is as far as I can see, for the vast majority of Canadian families, probably in excess of 90% of all Canadian families, your simple homeownership decisions, and that means if you choose to rent or buy as well, that is a homeownership decision. Your homeownership decision can be not to buy. There is no other wealth-altering aspect of your life that the roof over your head dictates. So, Pat, when we're not giving you precise answers here on the show for free, it's because there's other people who are relying upon us to do it. And right now, because of their advantage over everyone else who's out there in the market, the advantage that they have because they have access to how we see things, our perspective on the housing market, they have an advantage over you. There's nothing I can do about it, Pat. I can come on this show, I can give you insights into how you're being conned by your local real estate boards. I can give you insights in how you're being directed by the infrastructure into making bad decisions. I can explain to you how there is nothing in this entire world that is working in the advantage of a home buyer. There is not a single body, organization, group, anything that is working for you as a home buyer. The entire world is working against you. They're working against you by what you are told in the newspaper by the press. It's working against you by what you're told by economists from Canadian banks. It's working against you from what government bodies are telling you. It's working against you from how the provincial home trading legislation has been formulated. It's working against you how the associations that oversee real estate brokers is working against you. It's how the franchise brands themselves work against you, the home buyer. It's how every single realtor in this country is earning their income in an infrastructure that works against you, the home buyer. How do you know, Pat, if I'm telling you the truth? How do you know if this is the truth? There is not a single home buyer in this country who in the last year has signed an agreement of purchase and sale where the commission in dollars was written out on the agreement of purchase and sale for everyone to see. There is not a single contract, not a single agreement of purchase and sale that was written anywhere in Canada in the last year where the home buyer was told how much commission they're paying in the purchase price of the home that they're buying. The entire world is working against home buyers, except for one place, Pat. That is my firm, and that is the new type of service that we're offering. We are advisors, homeownership advisors. That is not available anywhere else. It's the only place where we expose how the world is working against a home buyer and how a home buyer can flip the world over on its shell so they finally get a level playing field.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, Bob in Mississauga, Ontario asks, my parents are now in their early 70s and living in their paid-off single detached home in Mississauga. They can afford the house, but Dad had his knee replaced recently, and the family thinks it's now time to move, probably to something that's one floor instead of several. How do we approach this with prices being where they are today?
Okay, great question, Bob. Okay, so, and this is how the complicated answer flows. I don't know if your dad got his knee replaced because he was a physically active guy, and that he's busy, and he wants to continue being busy. Maybe he had his knee replaced because he was overweight and he wasn't moving around. My answer is going to change depending on who your dad is. Let me put this into context. My dad is 84 years old. 84. Already this year. So since January of this year in Ontario, he's finished the basement in his brand new home. He has built a 10 by 20 deck in his backyard. He has built a garden shed in his backyard. He has moved 3 yards of stone, crushed stone. He has filled in 18. He has taken 18 bags of cement from his front yard, walked them into his backyard, mixed them up, and poured them as footings for the deck. 18 bags of cement. Anybody who's poured footings understands what I'm talking about. If you've never poured footings, you don't know what I'm talking about. The guy's 84 years old. He gets up in the morning and he works right on through till the end of the day or till he's dead tired and comes in for dinner. He goes to sleep planning out his next day. Remember now, this is a guy who used to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day selling real estate. So he's a guy who's worked his entire life. So my advice for him is don't sell your house, Dad. And this is why. When I started selling real estate in the late 1980s, the average life expectancy of a Canadian was 77 years old. Today, 2021, life expectancy is around 82 years. It's gone up 5 years, Bob. 5 years. Now, we use a different life expectancy calculator ourselves in-house because we're more interested in the life after 30. So in other words, if you live to 30, then what is your life expectancy? And that has grown even more. We also have to look on the horizon, Bob. It's these new mRNA vaccines that we're using here for COVID also have a high degree of suggested success in possibly curing cancer. We have to take that into consideration because we believe, based on the people that we can consult in the medical community, medical researchers, longevity researchers, people we have direct relationships with, so we can trust how they're talking, that if you're able to hold on if your dad's 80, he's able to hold on to his 70, he's able to hold on to his 80, odds are he's going to be 90, 95 before he has to worry about things. Dementia. Is your family worried about that? These are all the sort of health issues that you have to ask. Then you have to ask about their pension. How is their pension? Can they live in this house and they've got enough money to be able to keep buying the car they want to drive, go visit the kids if they have, obviously your son, visit your family. And, if they can't afford to cut the grass, maybe hire somebody to cut the grass. Because who wants to move out of the family home, Bob? Your parents sure don't. This is what one of the big problems with economists have had about housing markets. They have misunderstood the behavior of homeowners. And the homeowner wants to stay in that house till they don't have any other choice. Now, of course, you need to plan. And you also have, maybe your parents are not active. Maybe they have other health issues that are coming up. And maybe they are already thinking about moving into a retirement home. Okay, that is a totally different answer. But what I will tell you is this, Bob. Even though the housing market is going to correct and there will be home equity lost, your parents will lose money. This is how you have to think about it. You said your parents are in their 70. Let's say things won't go great and you go till you're 90. That means you have 20 years. If you can get an extra 5 years in your home, that's 20% of your remaining life where you get to still live the high quality of life that the family home is providing you. You can't be looking at this from a dollars and cents perspective once you get beyond 69. You have to look at this as a holistic viewpoint. I hear many, many financial advisors telling people, sell the big house, move into a condo, and invest your money so you can make a better return on it because the house price is going to drop. So what? What are you worried about? They're going to leave you money? That's the last thing that you need to be thinking about. It's the quality of life you're able to extract from every year that you have on this planet. And this starts probably around when you're 23, multiplies by the time you're 46, because the 46 to 69 year window will set you up for the rest of your life. Now, I understand, Bob, that I wasn't taught this growing up. My parents weren't taught this growing up. My own kids have only been recently introduced this. Yet I'll also tell you this, Bob, there are actual school textbooks that were used in the early 1900s in Canada that taught this. It was called home economics. And it was teaching women at the time, because, I mean, let's face it, most guys didn't take home economics back in the day. It was teaching women at the time how they could structure their lives and why the importance of an education prior to 23 was setting them up for the 46-plus window of earning opportunity. In other words, get your education before you have kids. Have your kids, if you want to stay home, if you want to be a professional home economist, be a professional home economist. And but be prepared during all that period that you're going to be starting your prime earning years when you're 46. Your parents are now in their prime no work years, the prime years of their enjoyment. So I would tell you this, Bob, you want to do everything in your power as a son to ensure that your parents are able to live the life that they want to live today, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, over the next 15, over the next 20. Anything that you can do to improve that means you are a good parent. You're a good child. That's how you have to approach this issue. If you approach this simply because the housing market is because you listen to me here on the show, and I'm telling you the housing market house prices are going to correct, and you believe me, that doesn't mean that I'm saying someone in their 70s should be moving right now. Most families in their 70s are able to absorb a house price correction that someone in their 30s and 40s may not recover from. It's a way easier choice to tell a younger family, don't trade up to that more expensive home right now, because you know the consequence of that trade will be carried with them for the rest of their lives financially to not move right now. But your parents are in a different state. Yes, mom and dad, your house is going to drop in value. This is no different, Bob, than when a financial advisor tells people never take your money out of the stock market. They tell you to use a diversified portfolio. They tell you how to structure your portfolio, and they tell you to live with the ups and downs in the market. That's okay if you're talking a 30-year window. But when you're talking about a 5-year window, that's not okay. That's not the way to talk. And anybody who was hit by the stock market crash of 2008, when you're getting ready to retire, understands the consequence of that hit. The beautiful thing about the house, Bob, is if it drops in value, it's still serving the exact same purpose that it was before its price dropped. The only people who are hurt in a housing market are those people who are least able to suffer the consequences of falling home equity. Those are the people that are hurt. Those people generally are people between the 30 to 46-year-old age category. After 46, if you've owned a home already for 16 years, you're probably going to be able to weather any kind of a correction. But that key 23-year window between 23 and 46, or how we look at it, about 30 to 46, because that's the key enter the home trading market timeline. Those people can be hurt. So, Bob, my advice would be to sit down with your parents, map out the next 20 years, ask them how much value they get from their home. Look at health honestly, and maybe get some professional advice in how to approach this with everybody. But I want to end this, Bob, with this statement. Until the governments of Canada begin to build the type of homes that people in their 70s and 80s and 90s want to live in, homeowners who are entering their 70s, 80s, and 90s are willing to sell their existing executive and luxury class home to free those homes up for the next generation of trade-up buyers to move up the property ladder, until governments create a vehicle, a home, a category of home in enough numbers to let those late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s sell their existing home before they move into a high-rise retirement condo. The housing affordability issue will not change one iota.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HouseStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HouseStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.